We're gonna go through a whole walkthrough of our animation process. We're gonna try to go from taking the script to the audio assembly, to taking the audio assembly and animating over it, and then piecing it all together and exporting it. We're working on a client project right now. I have an animation that I have to handle, so I'm gonna go through at least the process. Hopefully this will be very insightful. So the first thing we got here is we got the voiceover from the client. This is an explainer video, really, where it goes over a topic. There's a voiceover and the entire runtime has to be covered. There's no cutting back to camera with the guy who talks. It's gonna require a lot of coordination between us and the animation team and trying to make sure everything kind of fits together right and that we cover everything well. Now, I'm gonna look at the first step. It's already been taken care of by our guy, Tristan, but he pulled together the voiceover into Premiere and then exported it out after he was able to kind of cut it up and make sure it was paced properly. I mean, just to think about the larger picture here, we're going to be tying everything together in Premiere in order to export it out for the final video. We want to start with Premiere and take the original audio and cut it up so that way we pace it out right. There are a few things where someone might have a blooper or someone just might not give the right pause between a different line, and we just kind of need to fill that space or even shorten that kind of gap. In doing so, that's going to change the pacing and the speed of things, and it's just going to make us feel, as animators, a bit more confident in our choices. Ideally, you'd even have music in here, which would also help give you the sense of pacing that you want, or give you the sense of emotions of any single beat in time. Right now, Tristan was able to make a audio assembly. He probably also cleaned up the audio to make it sound a bit better. You know, it just might be too quiet or just might be too tinny or whatnot. So we cleaned up the audio and now we export this, and that's why we're gonna have this file. This is the official audio assembly. This is what we want to give to all of our animators, that we're all working off the same file, working on the same pacing, and then we can time our animations correctly against each other. That's almost always something that I feel like is necessary to do before you jump into animation, getting that audio assembly done. In doing so, I will also introduce you to our 5-folder structure. Our 5-folder structure is a system I kind of created after working at ABC News. They didn't have a single way of doing it all the time, but they at least showed me a lot of really good organizational skills. And I kind of created a 5-folder structure that almost applies to any project. To make this clear, you know, you can modulate this to make it fit your project. But what I've found working with a lot of different people is that people will modulate it just because they're lazy, not because they're actually thinking through all the things that's going to be helpful for organization down the road. When you start cutting corners, that's when you start getting a little sloppy, and then, you know, let's say 2 weeks later, you have a need to get more organized because the project expanded or something like that. You're going to be caught in a really weird position where now you have to move things and reorganize stuff. Instead, if you start really organized, even if it is a little bit anal, a little bit over complicated, at least you won't need to reorganize down the road if the project continues to grow and expand. And also, this is very helpful for communicating between a larger team. So if it's just yourself, obviously you could probably, as many young media moguls have done, you know, you'll throw every asset into one folder and you won't name them anything differently than what you download them as. And now it's a million times harder to figure things out if someone else were to hop into the project, or even if you wanted to hop into a project that you made, you know, months ago that you just don't remember every file name anymore. So this is how we stay organized and how we make sure we communicate with everybody in the team. So the 5-folder structure, it's named 5-folder because there's 5 main folders. Got assets. Assets is everything that we're going to be tying into the final video, like the final Premiere timeline here. And that mostly ties into third-party media because we also have a footage folder here. The footage folder is more for originally created content, like you know, our voice recording, footage that we shot in the field or whatnot. But assets is more or less tied to graphics, third-party stock footage that we're downloading, third-party music that we're downloading, things that we have to track in terms of their copyright and usage down the road. So even if we make an animation file, like an animated video, but we're tying that all back together in Premiere, that exported video file will go under assets. It's not gonna go under the exports folder, because the exports folder is for the final export that we're handing to client, perhaps, or uploading online kind of thing. So that's assets, things that are getting used in the final video. Then we go to documents. Documents is where we put all of our pre-planning, pre-production documents, the scripts, all the transcripts, all those copyright agreements, all those release documents, all those things, documents folder. This is different from if we had like scanned documents that we're using as an animated piece, like a newspaper scan that we're using in an animation, because that would go under assets. Documents here means like pre-production documents, all of our asset trackers and stuff like that. Exports, like I said, this is meant for the exports that we are sending to client for review or for uploading the final versions of the whole project, but not the individual animated video files that we're going to tie together at the very end. That's not where this goes. Footage, like I said, that is for all the originally created stuff that we make, like voice recordings, video footage, photos that we take. For the most part, that would go under footage. There are some instances where, hey, you might want to put it in the assets folder. Again, I want to leave this kind of open-ended in some way so that you can modulate it for your own needs. Where like, you know, let's say you yourself, the owner of your video company, whatever, didn't shoot this footage, but it came from a friend. Well, in the professional world, you would still probably want to bring that in the assets folder because you're going to want to track and make sure you have the legal documentation for the copyright of that asset, even if that person was your friend and was kind of in-house, unless you have a work for hire statement. That's a lot of legal jargon. I just want to clarify what the footage folder is. And then we have the project folder. The project folder is for all the project save files. So like Premiere, when we create a save file for Premiere, we're going to put that in the project folder. When we make a save file for After Effects, we're going to put that in the project folder. Those are our main 5 folders. We break them down further as well. The assets folder, we break down into different numbers because we're going to number every file with that number system. So that way, when I talk with my teammates and I need a certain file because I'm missing it or I need to change it out, I don't want to tell them, oh, I need Getty image, yada, 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 yada. I can just tell them I need 3002. As what I used to do before I had this number system, you know, I might like click the video opening. Oh, I need this video of the teacher talking to students. Well, now I'm just describing a video, and now that means someone who has to find that video that I'm asking for is going to have to click through every video and find that video. That's just a headache. So that's why we have a 3000 system. We're not going to get any conflicts over any of the numbers, ideally, because we're saving each one under a unique number. The way that we break this up, at least here at NODEHAUS, it's kind of an arbitrary number system that was arrived at over time because we had a lot of other folders and we consolidated them. So instead of a 1000 or 2000 folder, we just start here with 3000. And 3000 is going to be for all third-party videos. So that's all stock footage video that we get from outside, all that kind of stuff. Then we get 4000, that's for third-party images. Then we get 5000, that's for documents, that's newspapers, that's PDF documents. Like if we're referencing books and we want to quote a book and we have a PDF document of it, we're going to put that under 5000. 6000 is for audio, so that's all the music and sound effects. And then 9000 is for graphics, and that's kind of a Wild West folder, just like a catch-all for everything that doesn't fit in there into everything else. And so if I were to make a graphic myself, like if I was going to illustrate something, or if I hired an illustrator to make certain assets, because they don't come from like a stock footage site necessarily, and they're kind of created in-house and I have a work for hire contract with them, we're gonna put it under 9000. We're still gonna try to label them 9000 something. We're gonna still label them here and put them into the 9000 folder, and it just becomes a bit of a Wild West. It doesn't really have exactly a limit to what's gonna be in there, but it's for mainly everything that doesn't fit into the rest of the assets folder. Under the 9000 folder, we have a 9100 folder. That is for all of the After Effects exports that we're going to tie into Premiere. So when we make a video file in After Effects, we're going to label that a 9100 number. There's a flexibility to that as well. Sometimes when we handle a whole series of videos, we might have some video files that are meant to apply to all videos in that episode series. So that's like the little cryon lower third text at the bottom that gives someone's name and their job position. We're going to be using that file probably across every episode that that person's featured in. And so we might make a new folder for that called 9200. And that'll be for all lower thirds or stuff like that. The way that I want to kind of introduce this to you is think about how you can keep this organized and grouped together in ways that make sense that you'll want to replicate for your whole team. The reason we do 9100 here is just it's the next way of organizing something underneath the 9000 graphics folder. That'll help people understand what these are. Documents, like I said, that's all planning documents, and you can get more in depth with that depending on each different project. Because each project has so many different needs, sometimes they need to be very well organized. If you're making like an actual feature documentary, you're gonna need to organize everything for sure. But because we're doing like 6-minute video explainers. You know, the script, a breakdown, an archival tracker, those things, that's all we need. And that's why we don't go too much further than that. Exports, you can organize this folder how you want. Sometimes we do like, here are just drafts, and then here's a folder for all the final delivery assets that you're going to hand to your client or upload, that you know that you've certified in your head that this is the final version, the high quality version. Everything else in this folder is not that. Everything else is the low quality review version. Footage, in our case for this animation video, we don't break this down much further because all we get are voiceovers. But for an actual project that has a lot of camera stuff, we would break that down more in depth, and I'll probably show you guys that in a later video project walkthrough where that actually applies. And then projects, this is more important for this project because we have a lot of collaborators on this project. We first break it down into different programs. So we have an After Effects folder, a Photoshop folder, and a Premiere folder. And then after that initial program folder, we then break it down by the contributors initial. So we have a few contributors already in this project. They've made their own folders with their initials on here. I should make my own. And we're going to save our own project files in After Effects into our folders. That way we keep it organized. So yeah, that is our 5-folder structure. It is a way to keep things organized and keep everybody on the same page, being able to understand and collaborate and talk with each other in a way that's actually productive, and we all have the same way of doing it. There's a little bit of modulation ability in it, but you know, the more you stick to this system, the stronger your ability to recall these project files really comes and develops. So I always just say, just follow the system, trust the process. And if you do make any changes, just be very communicative with your team. You know, everybody should be on the same page. You don't want people confused.